Today's 300-mile attack on the front line in the Donbass region comes a week after President Putin appointed a new general to oversee the war in Ukraine. General Alexander Dvornikov has experience in Grozny, the capital of Chechnya, and the siege of Aleppo in Syria. Both cities were left in rubble. Well, Dr. Anthony Gless is an expert in European security affairs and a Professor Emeritus at Buckingham University here in the UK. I asked him whether this new phase of the conflict is likely to be more brutal and perhaps more attritional than earlier battles.
Well, what we think is this war on a 300-mile front is likely to be the biggest tank battle since the Second World War. And yes, we think it is likely to last some considerable time. It represents a move away from what we believe and what our intelligence services tell us was Putin's initial plan, which was to take out Kiev in a matter of days, and so destroy the administrative structures of Ukraine, then allowing him to pick off the other cities one by one. Well, he made a bad mistake there. So this is like round two. Of course, Putin, and we heard his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, say what was happening now in Donbass, the east, was the next stage, implying there was a sort of connection, strategic connection between the two. But actually, we think the first strategy failed, and this is now a second strategy,
right,
with a new general reverting, though, if you will, to the old Russian, old Soviet idea that you obliterate an enemy with tanks, with missiles, with whatever you've got,
right,
and it can take forever.
And as this offensive gets underway, I mean, we're told the Russians have brought in extra troops and now have 76 battalion tactical troops. I mean, are these troops that have been withdrawn from Kiev, as far as you know, or are they coming from inside Russia?
Well, we think that Putin is trying to both take troops from Kiev and from, as it were, the northern front, but also recruit troops from other countries. He's welcomed leaders from other Eastern nations to Moscow, and we think his aim is to get them to give troops to Russia. And that, of course, is a key point because it suggests that Russia does not have sufficient forces of its own, sufficiently qualified, sufficiently trained. And it's one thing to say, oh, this is a big tank offensive, but for you to be successful in a tank offensive, you need to be deploying people who are well trained in tank warfare. And what we've seen in the Russian forces so far is that they are not well trained.
Right.
They largely conscript and not able to actually be a real fighting force.
But what about the Ukrainians? I mean, is it your sense that they have enough weaponry to hold out? Because, I mean, they may be dug in, but they've got to have masses of shells and artillery and lots of manpower as well.
They have. And in a way, Charles, this is the really important part of your question as we look forward to what might happen. And I'm afraid that either way, it's bad news. Bad news for Ukraine, but bad news for the West, bad news for all states who value the rule of law and democracy. For this reason, if Putin succeeds in delivering this death blow to the eastern part of Ukraine, which is also the economic heartland of Ukraine, he will get the victory he wants. He won't get it by the 9th of May, which is the sort of historic day he wants to have it, but he will get it. If, however, he doesn't get this victory, I think he will increasingly think about using either what the Russians call tactical nuclear weapons or chemical and biological weapons. He's got to win this. Now, that raises the question for us in the West and for NATO, to whether we can actually let Putin win. And I think it's the view of the British government. Prime Minister Boris Johnson was under fire of a different kind today, but certainly of our Defence Minister, Ben Wallace, that we cannot afford to let Ukraine lose, and therefore we have to supply Ukraine with the weapons that will allow it to withstand a Russian onslaught for many, many weeks. Now, whether that can be done, I do not know. But certainly the successful blowing up of the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, the Moskva, by Ukrainian missiles, so stopping the Russians from continuing to fire on Odessa, that shows Ukrainian fighting spirit is still very, very strong.
Okay.
And if we give them the tools, they may well finish the job.
Dr. Anthony Gless, always appreciate your analysis. Thank you very much indeed. And Dr. Gless is an expert in European security affairs and Professor Emeritus at Buckingham University here in the UK.